For more than a decade, something unusual was happening inside North America's manufacturing system. A bus could be designed in Canada, built by Canadian workers, and produced by a Canadian company, same. And yet, the most important part of the job still had to happen in the United States. For nearly 15 years, many buses connected to Canada's largest manufacturer had to cross the border before they could be finished. The early stages of construction often happened in Winnipeg, Manitoba. But the final assembly, the stage that creates the highest value manufacturing jobs, was frequently completed at American facilities. To many people outside the industry, this arrangement sounded strange, but inside the world of global manufacturing, it was simply how the system worked. The reason comes down to a set of rules in the United States known as Buy America regulations. These policies require that vehicles purchased with American federal transit funding meet strict domestic production requirements. That means a large share of components must be made in the United States, and the final assembly must happen on American soil. Because the US transit market is one of the largest in the world, companies across North America structured their supply chains around these rules. Even Canadian manufacturers often needed American assembly lines if they wanted to compete for major US contracts. So for years, a complicated cross-border system emerged. Parts could be produced in Canada. Engineering could be done in Canada. But the final step often happened in the United States. That arrangement is now beginning to change. In early 2026, a new production line in Winnipeg quietly marked an important shift. For the first time in more than a decade, a major transit bus rolled off the line fully completed in Canada, without needing to cross the border for final assembly. It may seem like a small industrial milestone, but behind the scenes it reflects a much larger economic story. Governments in Canada have recently been putting more focus on strengthening domestic manufacturing capacity. Federal and provincial leaders supported investments that expanded production capabilities at the Winnipeg facility, allowing buses to be built from start to finish inside the country. The goal is not only to create jobs, but also to build a more resilient supply chain. Manufacturing experts often say that the final assembly stage of production is where much of the economic value is created. These jobs typically require skilled labor and generate stronger local economic activity compared to earlier manufacturing steps. By keeping that stage inside Canada, the country can capture more of the value created by its own industrial sector. Early estimates suggest the expanded facility could create hundreds of direct manufacturing jobs while supporting thousands of additional positions across suppliers and related industries. But the real significance of this change goes beyond buses. Around the world, governments are rethinking how global supply chains work. Over the past decade, trade tensions, political disputes, and pandemic disruptions exposed how fragile international production networks can be. As a result, many countries are trying to reduce their dependence on foreign manufacturing for key industries. The United States has strengthened domestic production rules through policies like Buy America and large industrial subsidies. The European Union has introduced strategies aimed at protecting critical supply chains, and countries across Asia are investing heavily in domestic manufacturing capacity. Canada's move to expand full bus production at home fits into that same global trend. Instead of relying entirely on cross-border manufacturing systems, governments are increasingly asking a new question: how much of their industrial future should be controlled inside their own borders? That doesn't mean globalization is ending. International trade still plays a huge role in modern economies, but the balance may be shifting. Countries are now trying to combine global trade with stronger domestic production. In other words, they want access to international markets, while still maintaining key industries at home. The new production line in Winnipeg represents one example of how that strategy is starting to take shape. One factory alone will not reshape the global economy, but small industrial decisions like this often signal larger shifts in economic thinking. In the years ahead, the real question may not be whether globalization continues, but how countries redesign their supply chains to make them more secure. And sometimes those changes begin quietly, with something as simple as a bus leaving a factory floor. But behind that moment is a much bigger story about jobs, trade, and the future of global manufacturing. If you enjoy deep dives into global economic shifts and geopolitical trends, make sure to subscribe and stay connected. New videos every week exploring the forces shaping the world economy.